Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Menahot, Daf Yomi, Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph 37a1. Says the Gemara, you remember we were talking about where do you put the tefillin on. So we wanted to say that since it says Yadecha, so Yadecha does not mean the right hand because it usually says Yamin. So therefore it means the left hand. However, the Gemara is now going to say, Rabbi Yosef Chorem Omer, Matzinu Yamin Shenikra Yad. There is a time that we do find Yamin, which is called Yad. Shenemar, Vayad Yosef ki Ashit Aviv Yad Yemino al Rosh Ephraim, which means that we do find that there does such a thing that it says Yad, right? Aviv Yad Yemino. He does call it Yad Yemino. Yad is Yamin. So Vaidach, however, the Tanakama, he's going to answer you Yad Yemino Ikre. Yad Stamalo Ikre. Meaning, whenever it's going to be Yad, so Yad is not going to be called like that. It has to be Yad Yemino. So Yad Yemino is going to be, right, in this situation when he's going to say, it's called Yad Yemino. It's not called Yad by itself. Yad by itself is always left. Yad Yemino is the right hand. Rabbi Natan Omer, Rabbi Natan comes and he says, Eno tzadich, you don't have to bring these psukim. Sharei Omer, because it says in the pasuk, Ukshartam, Uktavtam. Ma ketiva biyamin, right? Af kshira biyamin. He says, listen, it's written, you have to write it. And if it's written, when you have to write it, you also have to tie it on the hand. Just like the ketiva, you write with your right hand. So to the kshira, when you're tying it, has to be with the right hand. They gave the kshira biyamin. So now if you're tying it up with the right hand, so therefore it has to be on the left hand. You cannot put it on the right hand and then tie it with the right hand. You have to put it on the left hand and tie it with the right hand. So therefore, that's why it has to be in such a case. So Rabbi Yosef Chorem and Rabbi Yosef Charem, he comes and he says, small Menahot. How do you know that you're going to put the tefillin on the left hand? Because again, according to him, right, if you don't need it, so how do we know you're going to put it on the left hand? Nafkale mehechad nafkale Rabbi Natan. So he's learning this halacha from that which Rabbi Natan actually learns it, right, which is going to be the hekesh of kshira and ketiva. Ravashi comes and he says, Min yadecha, he's learning it. Why? Because ketiv beotei. One is a yadecha, yad keha. It's written with, you could say yadecha without the hey. So why does it have the hey? Yad keha, which means the weaker hand. So now says the Gemara, Amale Rabbi Abba Ravashi. Says Rabbi Abba to Ravashi, Ve'ema yadecha shebakoach. He says maybe yadecha means yadecha that you have yad chazaka, meaning you have the koach, not yad keha, which is yadecha. That's why it has the hey that we just said above. Samale, he says miktiv bechet, right? It doesn't say it with a chet. Meaning, it says with a hey. If it says with a hey, it's yad keha. If you're going to say it's yadecha sheba koach, koach is with a chet, not with a hey. So it obviously means it's yad keha. So answers the Gemara, ketanai. Really, be'emet, it's a machlok ketanai. Yadecha behei, right? What does it mean, yadecha behei? It's coming to teach you it's going to be small. Why? Because it's yad keha. Acherim omrim yadecha lerabot tagidem. This coming to include even a person that's going to be katua yad. He's still going to be chayav to place tefillin. So obviously this is going to be arguing on what we just mentioned before. V'tanya idach, we also learned in another brayta. En lo zroa. What happens if he doesn't have a left arm? So patur min tefillin. He doesn't have to put on tefillin. Acherim omrim. Other people say yadecha lerabot tagidem. That no, yadecha comes to include gidem. Okay, fine. Next says the Gemara. Right? It says as follows. Yeah? Tanu Rabbanan. Right? Iter. Iter is a lefty. Maybe no, he's going to put it on the right hand. Shehu smolo, which is going to be his left hand. Right? So that's what I do. I put it on my right hand, but it's my left hand. Says the Gemara, Vatanya minich b'smolo, shu small kol adam. I thought it said you have to put it on the left hand, which is small kol adam. Rabbi says, no. Kitanya he, only if he's able to control with both hands. Meaning, if he's not really a lefty, meaning he's able to do both, so therefore he's going to do like a regular person. But if not, he does it on the right hand, which is the left of everybody else. Tana v'minashe al yadecha. What does it mean al yadecha? Al kiboret. Kiboret is like the muscle which is on the top part of the arm, okay, which is between the marapek, right, between the elbow and the katef and the shoulder. Okay, benenecha. What is benenecha? So akod kod. This is the part of the rosh which you have to put on the tefillin shel rosh, which is hecha. So he says, right? What does that mean? Over here is where the child's brain, right, where the child's head is very, very soft. When a baby is born, it's very, very soft there. So therefore, it's going to be like that, right, on the top. So ba'mine plimo me Rabbi, ask plimo from Rabbi, mishi shlo shnei rashim. This is a very famous Gemara. What happens if a person has two heads? Yeah. So now somebody is going to say, what? What are you talking about? But it does exist, right? We know that. So be'eze mehen meniach tefillin. On which one do you put the tefillin? Elmaleh, he says, o kum gli, o kabel alecha shamta. He went and he said, you know what? Either go out and accept yourself galut, or, right, nidui. Right? What does that mean? Because Rabbi was upset. The guy comes and he starts asking theoretical questions. So you have to remember, by the way, many times in the Gemara we see this, that sometimes they come and they ask a theoretical question. What happens if the one foot is on the inside, one foot is on the outside? And they used to come and throw them out of the Bet Midrash because there's no such thing. Nowadays we have a little bit more patience, right? So therefore, that's why I get it all the time. But really, Be'emet, right away, out. They didn't exist. So the Hachi, Atau Gavra Vamale, Ninuka, Rashe. All of a sudden he came and he told him that, and all of a sudden somebody comes into the Bet Midrash and he says, by the way, he has somebody that was born with a child that was born with two heads. So kama beinan lemitav lekohen. How much does he have to give to pidyon bechor? Right? Does he have to give 5 slaim? Remember, he has to give 10. So ata usaba. So the zaken echad came and he said, Tanale chayav liten lo 10 slaim. He has to give him 10 slaim. Yeah. So says the Gemara, any is it so? Fatani Rami בר חמא, מתוך שנאמר פדות תפתה את בכור האדם, שומע אני אפילו נטרף בתוך 30. Right? So he says, one second, I'm going to ask the following question. When it says padot tiftet bechor adam, I understand that even if he's going to die within the 30 days, what, you still have to do pidyon? Talmud Lomar comes to teach you the what? Right? Ach. Right? Look in the Lamed Zayin Mubet. Ach padot tiftet bechor adam. What is the ach? Ach is being mechalek, right? And therefore he comes and he says that in such a case, you do not have to be podeh a child. So if a child is going to die within 30 days, they don't have to do pidyon ben. So says the Gemara, Shane hacha, it's different over here than the child that has 2 heads, because everything is talui gulgolet. Meaning when the Torah says chameshet shekalim lagulgolet, each skull, I don't know you want to say it in English other than that, each head is obligated in the 5 shkalim. So okay, fine, nekuda. Okay, next, Amar Mor. Yadecha is the kiboret. Menahot, how do you know? How do you know? Remember, the kiboret is here. It's between the elbow and the shoulder, and it's going to be the kiboret when you do this and you make a muscle. So it says Menahot, and the Tanu Rabbanan we're going to write al Yadecha zu gova shebayad. It's a gova v'yad. Ataomer zu gova yad or yadecha mamash. Maybe it's on mamash in your hands. Amra Torah. The Torah says anach tefillin bayad, but not tefillin berosh. You have to put it on the hand and you put it on the head. Just like over there, it's the head. It's not on the face. It's on the top of the head. So to here, it's gova shabayad. It's the top part of the head. Meaning it's not on the over here, on the palm, or on the no. It has to be mamash on the gova of the yad, on the top part of the hand, just like it's going to be on gova rosh. Rabbi Eliezer omer, eno tzarich. I don't need this pasuk. Why? He says, Are omer, it says, vaya lecha leot velo lachirim leot. It has to be lecha, for you, an ot, and not for achirim. What does that mean? He says, Lo tiena tefillin shel yad gluyot. What does that mean? It has to be for yourself and not for other people. Right? So from here we learn that you shouldn't put it on kaf hayad, because if you put it on kaf hayad, which is the palm, everybody's going to see it. So therefore, since it says v'vaya lecha leot, it has to be for you and not for other people. Okay, the third place, Rabbi Yitzchak omer. Rabbi Yitzchak omer, eno tzarich. I don't need this. Why? Hare omer v'samtem et dvarei ele al levavchem. It has to be by your heart. Ukshatem, right? Sheteh sima keneged lips. You have to place it by the heart. If you're going to put it on the palm, that's by the heart. It's never going to be, if you put it here, it's by the heart. So therefore, we'll say it's right here. So it's right by the heart. Okay? You used to actually put it by his heart. So he had the sharvul, right? He says there was a kera, right, on the upper part, meaning there was a tear on the upper part of the sleeve, right? So he says, so you could see the tefillin. Amarle, he told him, you don't hold the lecha leot v'lo la'achirim leot. Amarlo bimkom lecha leot itman. No, it's in the place, meaning, at the end of the day, you're right. It's revealed. But where is it? It's in a place where it's for you. Meaning, even though he had a torn garment, and because of the torn garment, you were still able to see it, it's in a place where it's still going to be for you and not for other people. Okay? Next 2 dots. Gova shevarosh. Menalan. How do you know that has to be on the top part of the head? The Tanu Rabbanan, as it says in the Braita, ben enecha zu gova shevarosh. Ata omer zu gova shevarosh o ela ben enecha mamash. Maybe it's mamash between your eyes. So ne'emar kan ben enecha v'ne'emar la notzi b'korcha ben enecha v'lemet. It says that you're going to come and you have to put it ben enecha, and it also says that you shouldn't place a korcha, right, between your eyes for a dead person. Ma lehanan for making a zera shava. Just like over there, it's gova shevarosh, which means we're talking about the kefet on above where the person has hair, and that's where he's making a korcha. So too, kol makom she'oseh korcha. Afkan begova shelosh makom she'oseh korcha. Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't need this pasuk to do with a gzira shava from korcha, right? He says, eno tzarich. Amrat Torah, the Torah says, "Hanach tefillin b'yad, v'hanach tefillin b'rosh." You have to put the tefillin on the hand and the tefillin b'rosh. Just like over there, b'makom haro'eh l'tameh b'nega echad, it's going to be a sug echad of nega tzarat, which could become tameh, which is se'ar lavan. So too, it has to be b'makom haro'eh l'tameh b'nega echad, that it could be tameh with a se'ar tzahov. So la'apuk benenecha di'ika basar v'se'ar. In benenecha, you've also got se'ar and you've also got flesh. Right? So therefore, it can't be there, right? The ika se'ar lavan, the ikanami se'ar tzahov. Because basically what's going to happen is that if it's a se'ar, it's lavan. If it's going to be the basar, it's going to be tzahov. So the fact that you could have two in one place, it cannot be benenecha mamash. It has to be on where the hair is. So therefore, where the hair is, so therefore it cannot be, right? It cannot be benenecha. You remember now we're going to the next part. The next part of the Gemara was that we said that if a person has tzitziot, he only has, let's say, three of them. So their makev is odzo. Shabbata mitzvah echad, because all four of them is one mitzvah. Maybe now what's the difference between them? Amar Rav Yosef sadim mitzvah. Right, the difference between them is going to be if you have a beged pishtan, they're going to put tzitziot of tzemer. If a person makes only three tzitziot and he puts it on according to Tanakama, he's going to be chayav because he did kilaim. Right, he's got kilaim here. He's got an isur. He put tzemer and pishtim. Right, and he's got a problem. Rava barahina amar talit balat chameshi. No, the difference between them is going to be when you have 5 corners. So he says over here, because you only have to put it when it's on 4 corners, not 5. Meaning if I split it to make 5 corners instead of 4, I'm not obligated in tzitzit. Ravina comes and he says another third answer. The Ravuna is the difference between them. What if you to go outside with a talit which is not done properly, and you went out on Shabbat with it? Are you going to be chayav or not? So he says you're still going to be chayav chatat. He says why? Because the fact that you're not doing a mitzvah, so it's ki'ilu that you're carrying. So therefore you're going to have a problem. So Amar Rav Shisha Ravida, Haiman de Batsre leglime, which means if somebody's going to come and cut off one of the 4 corners of his beged, right, in order to make a patur, lo aviv lo klum, he didn't do anything. Why? Because he made it balat chamesh knafot, and he's going to be chayav. That means according to this one, he's going to be chayav even if it's going to be 5 corners instead of 4. If you had 4 corners and you cut off 1 corner, it becomes 2. One more time. You have 4. This is the 4th corner. If I cut it off, what does it become? 1, 2. It becomes 5. Okay, so therefore, right, and according to this, he's saying that it's going to be chayav, even a 5 corner of tzitzit. That's what according to this shita. So Amar of Meshashi, I meant to tell the lo aviv lo klum. Why? He says it's like he was making it that it's going to be pashet kefel. So Tznan Namyan, we also learned kol chamatot atzrurot, all the nodot haor, which means all the flasks are tehorot except for the ones of the Aravim. Okay, let me see what it said. Why? It's still Ra'oi Lekapel Tumah because that's normal. Meaning he says the fact that you did it this way, it's normal. So once it's normal, you're going to be obligated. So Amar Avdim Narda, Haiman de Chayte Leglime, if a person was going to be Mekapel and then he was Tofer, the knaf of the talit, Lo Avalokum, he didn't do anything. Tinita Dolobaile, because whenever he wants, he just takes it off. Imagine like this. I've got the 4 corner garment. All of a sudden he comes and he does like this. And he sews it up. Whenever he wants, tuck in 2 seconds, and now it's normal. So it didn't do anything. Okay, Rabbi Shmuel says, Arba'atan is Arba mitzvot. He says the 4 tzitziot are actually 4 mitzvot. So Rabbi Shmuel says, Halacha is like Rabbi Shmuel. However, though, says the Gemara, the Halacha is not like him. Meaning, even though at the beginning we went and he said that the Halacha is like Rabbi Shmuel, that it's 4 mitzvot, really, Be'emet, it's not true. It's really 1 mitzvah. Ravina v'kaze lebate demon Ravashi v'shabata de regila. So the regla, right? So he went on behind Ravashi on a Shabbat regel that he used to do derashot on the Shabbat regel, right? If sikarna de chuten, all of a sudden it torn, right? The knaf of the beged, right? Now all of a sudden he didn't say anything. Kalmati lebete, when he went and he got to his house, Elmaleh, he told him by the way, mehatam ifsik, it tore. So Elmaleh, he says, mehatam shadite. He says, if you would have told me miyad, right, I would have thrown it off. Meaning, imagine right now, if it tore, now he's wearing a beged without tzitzit. So he would have thrown it off right then and there, but he didn't tell him until he got home. So he comes and he says, V'amar mor, gadol kvod habriot, shedochet lo ta'aseh shebatorah. He says, gadol kvod habriot. What does that mean? Because of the kavod, we're not going to come and start obligating you on Shabbat to come and take off your clothing in order to take off the tzitzit and to take it off. Right? So says the Gemara, Tir Gemara Rav Bar Shaba, Kamed Rav Kahana, right? Belav de lo tasur. There we're talking about the isur of being over on divrei chachamim, which we learn lo tasur min ha'davar shegidu lecha yamin u'smol. V'ika damne, we're on Lamed Chet Amud Aleph on the top, getting to the end of the perek. So it says v'ika damne. Some people say mehatam amaleh, that he went and he told them from over there. Amaleh, he says my datech. What do you hold? Lemishte, what, you wanted to take it off? Fa'amar mor, go briot shedochel lo toseh Shabbat Torah. So he says, "Vatigma Rav Bar Shaba Kamed Rav Kahana." We're talking about that halacha is only to do with kavod briot, which is a lot asur, which means the yisur Torah of being over on divrei chachamim that they learn from lot asur in advar shegidol small, which means only in that isur is it this basis that they made such a gezerah that it's going to be pushed off because of kavod briot. But tiltul on Shabbat and Reshut Rabin, that's Toraita. Well, you would have actually bemet have to take it off. For Hachanami here too also it was a Carmelit. So since it was a Carmelit, it was the Rabbanani. So since it was the Rabbanan, that's why Be'emet, he wouldn't have had to need to take it off then and there. So that's why he didn't tell him, because again, if it was going to be Doraita, Be'emet would have had to take it off. Right? He would have had to take off if it was a Doraita. But since it was a Carmelit and it was only the Rabbanan, he didn't need to, and therefore he only told it to him. Right? No, it was on Shabbat. Okay, Adran Allah